What's up, North County? I'm your host, Randy Doty, and today we're going to talk about what is going on with these things, which everybody got them in the mail. You got your ballots, and they got all these propositions and all these measures. What the heck do they mean? So I called my good friend, Jennifer Grinenger, to come in and tell us, or at least, kind of touch on what these things are. So Jennifer, thanks for coming in and, sharing your opinions, which, may or may not be, right or wrong, whatever. But I'd like to talk about because like I said, I don't know, But so thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
I'm happy to be here. And it is just my opinion, is not a representation of the Templeton School Board.
Sure.
So let's just dive into it.
Yeah, so first I want to start off by you. Okay, so tell me a little bit about you. You are on the school board. You're, obviously very into the politics and the local, movements and stuff like that. So just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. Well, I wasn't involved in politics for most of my life. I mean, it's a more recent thing that I've started paying more attention. And I would say I've always voted, and I always really read up on what I was voting on and made sure I did my research. But when election season was over, I quit paying attention and I was back to life as usual. And I really abhorred politics. And then COVID happened and all of our lives got turned upside down. And I realized, man, I better start paying more attention to what's going on because this is really crazy that this could even happen.
Now, Jennifer, let me stop you real quick right there, just because I'm the type of person that I have to ask questions as we're going, but we're going to still continue on, with you and how you got into this. But do you think COVID, because that was at the turn of obviously an election year, the transition, do you think because everybody was forced to, you had no activity, other than TV and radio and stuff like that, but there was no major activities. Do you think that was where the transition where information and people became a little bit more in tune with politics?
I don't know about that being the same for everybody, but I think it was a big wake-up call. I mean, it's the first time ever we've experienced the healthy being quarantined.
Right.
It was 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and then that turned into really here in California, things were not back to any kind of normalcy for 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. That's a long time.
That's a wild time.
Yeah, that's a long time. And I remember, the first 2 weeks, my son sitting there watching TV with me, and he's like, so the parks are closed, amusement parks are closed, the ravine is closed. He's like, so pretty much they just took away everything that's fun.
Right.
And he was like, what are we going to do? It was so discombobulating.
Right.
And
it was just a weird time to just drive anywhere.
Yes.
And nobody there.
Right.
Seeing Las Vegas with nobody in town.
Yeah, I didn't go there, so I didn't know that, but that would be kind of scary.
I didn't go there, but one of the rapper musician guys did a video there, and it's literally he's walking around downtown main drag of Las Vegas, and nobody, no cars, no people walk. It was very eerie, eerie to see.
Well, it was, and I remember one of the first things that was just like, wow, this is crazy. The manager of our real estate company said that he was driving by, in San Luis Obispo, our real estate office, just to make sure, is everything okay? Nobody's broken any windows. Everything looks fine. And there was a turkey walking down the middle of the street on Monterey
Right?
Street.
Oh my gosh.
So it's just, it was a weird time. I had another friend that she said that she took her boys out driving, they had to go get something at the store. And just seeing that there was nobody, it was like a ghost town, and it made them cry. It was very scary for kids. Mm-hmm. And for us as adults too. It was like, what, and then, all the parents that have kids in school are on Zoom and for the first time are really seeing what's really going on here. And it was a big eye opener.
Right. So let's get back to you and how you got into what you're doing now, because now you're on the board. You went from not really paying attention much after the time that you voted to the next year. So
Right.
So keep going there, Jennifer.
Yeah. So I'm enjoying being on the board. Being involved in a campaign that way, running my own campaign was a big learning curve. It's a lot of work, and I planned for, once I knew that this was what I was going to do, I planned for it. I saved money like crazy because I wasn't sure how much time it was going to take out of my day, and I'm glad I did that because I've not really been able to work with the amount of research and things that I'm looking into. We get these board packets and it's a lot of reading. But, I keep being told it's what you make of it. You put as little or as much time into it as you want. It's, here in Templeton, it's a volunteer position. Some other school districts pay a small stipend. We don't. And so a lot of people don't have that kind of time, and I would hope that they would spend some time reading, but not everybody does.
It's interesting to say that because I was wondering that as far as like on these, because you're obviously right now we're reading a lot about PASO board and this and that and Tascadero board and going, I wonder if they get paid. So you said Templeton doesn't, but does PASO and Tascadero?
Yes.
So they do get some sort of stipend yearly,
small.
monthly?
Monthly. They get a monthly stipend, and I can't remember for sure what it is, but it's somewhere between like $200 and $400. It's different for each district.
Right.
And I think even San Miguel does a small stipend.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, no kidding.
Yep. We're the only
and
ones.
And Templeton does it?
We don't.
Interesting.
Right.
Now, whose decision is that? Is that
It's the board's decision.
Board. So you guys. So technically, if you wanted to, not to say you are, but you guys could vote in a stipend.
We could.
Gotcha.
Right.
Wow,
and I think the board in Templeton. That's the one thing I've got to say I'm pretty happy to see is very fiscally conservative, and everybody who's on the board values our district and our kids and our teachers. And it just probably, I would imagine, not having ever discussed it with any of them, but I would imagine that just, talking about paying us when we're facing budget cuts would not be the way we'd want to go.
So Jennifer, since we're on the board and we're on that kind of platform, what all does the board do? What exactly does the Templeton board, your board, what is your guys' job?
We make sure that we're reviewing policies, the board policies, and that they're up to date legally and that they're being effectively implemented. One thing that's I think probably a surprise for people to hear is that we do have some control over taxes and what taxes we're going to impose. So that there's a school bond measure on the ballot, and we voted for it to be on the ballot. I felt okay with that because it wasn't me deciding on the tax, it was me deciding to put it on the ballot for everybody else to decide on the tax. So we have that kind of control. There is a developer fee that we just recently voted on, and that's directly our decision. So that doesn't go on the ballot. That's a school board's decision. A developer fee is what not just a developer of a group of homes, but even just an individual homeowner, if you're going to do an addition to your home, you're charged a developer fee. And so every 2 years, I think it can be reassessed, and most school districts agree, yeah, let's go ahead and increase it because that's direct money into our school district. And for the last several times, Templeton School Board had decided not to increase it. So we were far behind our neighboring districts and to the tune of 55% less. So it was $3.36 per square foot for a developer fee if you're doing an addition or improvements to your home. And then there's a different rate for commercial. But and it's now increased to $5, and I can't remember how
wow.
much. So it was a 55%
Almost, yeah.
increase. I had asked, gosh, this is a lot all at once. Can't we just reduce it by, or increase it by 20%, 25%? Let's do a smaller increment instead of one big, huge fell swoop. And I would, that was voted down. So it got increased. I was the one opposing no vote. I didn't feel like this was the way to go, and I lost on that one.
So recently, these gas stations wanted to come into town, right?
Right.
And I think one of the developers pulled out, and then one of them is still pushing for it. But I believe the school, Templeton Unified School District, has put a letter into the developer. I'm not exactly sure where it goes, but opposing, obviously, it for multiple reasons,
Right.
alcohol, trafficking, so what kind of weight do you think that bears on this decision by the school?
I really don't know what kind of weight. I've been attending the TAG meetings, the Templeton Area Advisory Group meetings, and there's a lot of community members coming out to those meetings about the gas station. So there's a lot of opposition. I've not seen anybody coming for it. So the hope is that the developer will realize, gosh, this is going to kind of be an uphill battle, and do I really want to spend all the money I'm going to have to spend to research whether or not this is a good place to have this gas station when there's so much community opposition. So hopefully
You think they've already done that before they...
No, there's a process through county planning, and they'll have to do an environmental impact report, and they'll have to do it. That comes later. It has to go through certain phases first before it even gets to that point. But once you start doing those reports, and it's a lot of money, then you're more invested, and it's more likely to go through in some form or another.
So they're basically they're invested beforehand as they're petitioning for these developments. So there's dollars that they're coming out of pocket just to get onto an approval board.
Yes.
Gotcha. Wow, there's so much stuff going on here. It's crazy, and which I'm glad you came in, to tell us about, because we do have a lot of stuff going on. But I wanted to touch back on your because we are in election year.
Yes.
Obviously, we got a big election coming up. We're in the last stretch. A week and a half. Before November 5th, and you ran yourself, and so what's going through the minds of we're coming down to 14 days, or what is it, 10 days, 11 days?
Yeah.
What do you think the mindset right now is for all these candidates that are going for seats and positions?
Well, they're in the final push, so they know that early voting is happening, that people have already turned in their ballot. So really, they're trying to make sure that they can reach as many people as they possibly can who hasn't voted yet, who's still undecided. And it depends on, if it's just a local school board race, you probably don't have access to that information, the kind of money that you would spend to get that. But some of them do. I mean, used to be school board races were only, a couple thousand at most. And here in Templeton, that's still the case. When you turn in your file to run your campaign, you decide then if you're going to spend under $2,000, which means that then you don't have to report to the FPPC board. But if you're going to fundraise for more than that 2,000, then everything has to be accounted for, and you have to declare all the monies that you receive. And I think in Templeton, none of our four candidates have agreed to spend more than 2,000, so that reporting is not happening. But you'll notice that in Atascadero and in Paso, you have candidates that definitely are going. Generally, when you receive funding through the Democrat Party, they give a lot of money to, and they have been over the last couple elections, to school board candidates.
And when you say money funding $2,000, what are you talking about? Like for signs and
Right.
advertisements and I mean, is that what that
Yes.
2,000's for?
Yes. Yeah, you've got to decide, what are you going to spend that 2,000 on? What's the best bang for your buck? Really, the free thing to do is walk door to door, and that has the most impact on your ability to get your messaging out and meeting people face to face. But a lot of people don't have that kind of time.
Right.
It's very time consuming. And so, yeah, you can spend money on signs, you can spend money, you can receive from the county clerk recorder's office a list if you're going to go walking as to who are the likely homeowners that are going to be of like mind, who's registered Republican versus Democrat. You can pay for text messaging, you can pay for ads on Facebook, it's limitless.
Is that your money, or is that through the party that you're representing?
Well, it's not through the party you're representing. Like the funding that I received was all individual donations, small amounts of money, $50, some were only $20,
Gotcha. Okay.
$1,000, some were, I did receive one that was $1,000 from an individual. So,
But you can't accept any more than $2,000.
well,
Or-
I filed that I would receive more than 2,000.
Oh, okay,
So
gotcha.
I did all that reporting. I had an accountant that did all that for me and made sure everything was run
Oh my
smoothly.
gosh, that's probably you're talking about IRS and under the microscope. I think of
Yes.
that being a small business owner all the time, but I can only imagine what it is for somebody running. I mean, you're probably fine-tuned
Yes.
everything that you do, every step that you make.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
So,
I hired an accountant. Well,
Yeah?
I didn't hire. She volunteered, which was very, very nice. So she's a CPA and she did an amazing job. She was perfect.
so obviously you won.
Yep.
And did it come down to the wire? Like, I mean, were you?
Yes.
Was the clock and the tickler going, and you're just like, oh my gosh, we're gonna win. Oh, we're gonna lose. I mean, what was that
Up
feeling
and
like?
down and up. Every time the count came out, they would every week, I think, or every couple of weeks, they would update the count. And sometimes I was down, sometimes I was up. It was like crazy, and it came down to just 13 votes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, who were you running against?
Really, it was against Matt Allison,
Okay.
who is running now. And also on the ticket was Janelle Armette, who also got elected. So it's 2 seats
So
that
there's
were
2
up.
seats available. Okay, and so
And I
both you and
think-
Janelle got.
Yeah, and I think it was just and Jason Tessar was also running.
Okay.
So there were 4 of us running for 2 seats.
Okay.
Right.
And so obviously, so what was it like that day? I mean, you're talking 13 votes. Was there a recount? Because I think with the last election, there was a recount, and the other party had to pay for the
Right.
recount fee and still came back short and stuff like
Yes.
that. Was there any of that kind of stuff?
No, I mean, it's the candidate themselves that needs to ask for the recount. And in our case, nobody did that. So a school board race, that would be unusual, I would think.
Unless there was an agenda. Maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Maybe. But it was, voting used to have, you knew who won pretty much the day of election, right? Remember those days?
It's funny, we were talking about that earlier, my first time voting was 2016. Prior to that, I didn't really.
But we knew the next day. I remember waking
Yeah.
up and it was like, oh my gosh, President Trump won. Who would have ever
Right.
expected that?
Exactly.
And so we knew the next day. Now you don't know for 30 days.
Or
it's
longer.
a whole month. Well, no, they have to certify it at the end of
Okay.
that 30 days. So it becomes very anticlimactic. I mean, on election day, when you know who won, the campaign's having a party that night. They stay up all night making sure they're watching the count, and it's done, and. But when it's 30 days later, it's like there were people probably 6 months later that were like, oh, we didn't know you got elected.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Jennifer, did you win?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I thought you didn't make it. And so people quit paying attention by that point. You're certainly not going to have a party 30 days later.
Right.
It was kind
Well,
of
we're inundated and blasted with so many different, campaigns and everything. Commercials now is just like, it's that's all you. Thank goodness for like now regular TV's like not there, so you don't have to go through and wait for commercials as you're watching TV. Now everything's on demand, but
Right.
that's where we're at now. You can get rid of that. But before we go, because I want to go over these before we run out of
Yes.
time, but. And I just wanted to ask your opinion on this year's election. Obviously, we know what happened in 2020. The whole Dominion, the whole, stop counting, come back the next day, things change, right? Do you foresee that happening this year? Or do you think I would think that there's expecting something, and I don't know. What do you think? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I can't foretell the future, of course, but what I can say is, number one, when there's a lot of malaise, right? A lot of people are like, gosh, they feel as though it's rigged, and so why even bother?
Right.
And that's definitely not the attitude to have. I mean, for sure, it's not going to go your way if you don't vote. So everybody needs to vote. It's really, really important. It always has been, and it's even more important today. The Dominion voting machines, you have one camp that's saying it's rigged, and you have another camp saying it's totally fair, there's no issue whatsoever. And it's like, okay, any of us who have a computer and have gotten the letters in the mail saying your information has been compromised, we know that it's pretty easy to hack into any computer system. And we were told for forever that these Dominion voting machines that we have are not even connected to the internet. Well, that's definitely not true, and that's been proven. So why are they lying about that, number one? And why are we using a system that's connected to the internet when it comes to the most important thing that we have for our democracy, which is voting? So I don't think that we should be using those Dominion machines.
Yeah, it's just
They can access them remotely to update them. That means it's connected to the internet.
right. It's just a crazy time that we live in.
Yes.
It's just a crazy time. Went through the craziest time with the shutdown, which was only 4 years ago, which seems like forever ago, but really it was not that long ago. And I keep looking back on that and scratching my head going, what else can happen?
Yes.
that I'm going to be surprised of? Nothing.
Right. Oh, for sure.
So-
and we are seeing, the impacts of it we're seeing with our kids in school.
Yeah.
All of my fears that I had, my background as a therapist and as somebody who worked as a social worker with kids in the foster care system, I knew immediately the damage that was going to be done to kids the longer that this went on, and we're seeing it. There's quite a lot of damage that was done.
Right. And it's a lingering effect.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, here's my ballot. I got my ballot. I wanted to open it, which I got my vote sticker in there, which is going to be cool. But there's so many different measures here. There's so many different, people on these, on this ballot. Of course, you've got, your measures, you've got your proposition, starting at Proposition 2, state stuff, you've got your local stuff, all the way. But Jennifer, help me out here.
Sure.
So
one of the things I like to do is there's certain organizations that they all provide information about we are in favor of this proposition or we're not, we're opposing it. And so you've got to kind of figure out who you align with, where your values are. The Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is one of the ones that I really pay attention to. I'm a fiscally conservative person. I don't like my taxes being raised, and so they are definitely in alignment with that viewpoint, and I pay attention a lot to what they say. And then, there's some measures that they're taking no position on, and then I do further research. What our other organizations say. Let's look at both sides. Let's see who's supporting these ballot measures and who's not. Mm-hmm. And so that's really how I make up my mind. You get that voter guide in your envelope, and it gives you quite a bit of information. Sometimes I feel like I need to read pretty much the whole measure because there's a lot of hidden language.
Right.
But that's a lot of time, and most people don't
exactly
have that kind of time.
And we don't.
Right.
That's why it's like, give me the surface, give me the biography of, give me what this really is.
Exactly. Proposition 2 is a statewide bond measure for schools. Okay, so we have our local D24 that's on the ballot for Templeton Unified School District that is a school bond. This is just like that, but it's statewide. So who actually gets that money if it passes? Will Templeton see any of that money? Not necessarily, and probably not, because what has to happen then is that money has to be applied for by each individual district if it's passed, and we have to provide matching funds. Templeton Unified would have to provide matching funds. Well, how would we do that? We would do that by passing another bond. So you're going to have to pass a bond in order to get the money from this bond. And that's, if D24 passes, who in their right mind is going to pass another bond to get these state funds?
Right.
That's probably not going to be very much when it's spread out amongst all the districts in the state.
So it's really interesting because it gives you it like on these propositions, it tells you like supporters, and it gives you your opposing people. Is that to kind of so that way you know who you're aligning with to see what their opinions are?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Okay. I recognize these certain organizations as one that I know I align with, and so if they're opposing it, so am I.
Gotcha.
And Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association is opposing Proposition 2.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
The next one is Proposition 3, and this is a really interesting one. And you had initially contacted me based upon my Facebook post. They said, I'm getting a lot of calls from people asking my opinion, and so here's my opinion. Mm-hmm. This was one I left off because I hadn't really researched it yet, but I have now. This is the one that would remove language from the California Constitution, our state constitution, that says that marriage is between a man and a woman, and it would change that language to say that the right to marry is a fundamental right. Well, that sounds pretty okay,
Right.
That's all right. I mean, I'm in favor of gay marriage. I don't have a problem with that. So I called some of my gay friends and said, what do you guys think about this? Surprisingly, most of them said, we're not really sure. We're kind of ambiguous about this one. It feels like a trap, is the literal words they said. Some of them said, absolutely not, I'm not voting for this. So I had to start looking into why. Well, the right to marry is a fundamental right is really broad. That opens the door then. If it's a fundamental right for everybody, that opens the door for polygamy and bigamy. It changes, there's no wording then about age. You can have child brides. This is not
so
something
we're going
we
backwards.
Want. Yes. Yeah, I would say I'm voting no on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty crazy.
It is pretty crazy, and
because on the surface, you're looking at going, okay, our times are changing,
right,
which is cool. I don't care, who you marry. You can marry a rock if you want to, But then when you start digging in, like you did, and you find these things that are left off the description, which some people will go right, hey, it doesn't say it here, and then they don't find out until afterwards, after everybody went on the surface and voted,
right,
and didn't really research like you did and find out the depth and core of it.
And to be fully transparent, just passing this Prop 13 isn't going to do all those things, but it opens the door for that.
Right.
So once you change wording in a constitution, then that makes it a lot easier to change statute and law. And so that's where that would come in. And we just don't want to go down that path.
Crazy.
I know.
All right, we're on
crazy.
To Proposition 4.
Okay, so the Howard Jarvis Taxpayers Association also says no on 4. This is another bond, which bonds in general, they're very expensive. It's like a credit card, and you're paying not just the initial money that you paid into, but now all of that interest over 30 years. So that's why bonds are not the best way to go about getting money. And so this one is another $10 million bond that is for climate. for climate control issues.
Okay.
Okay. So my opinion is voting no on that. I don't want to spend that amount of billions of dollars on that issue. I think that we already have money in our budget for these things. I feel as though our state has not managed our money well. We had a huge surplus before this year, and Governor Newsom dwindled that down to now we have a $78 billion deficit. So, I can't remember the amount of money that we had that was a surplus, but you have to realize then that we had billions of dollars in surplus, and that went away, and on top of that, a $78 billion deficit. We're in deep trouble.
Wow, that's crazy.
Right.
So, and it's supported by CAL FIRE.
Yes.
So, but if I remember right, 4 years ago, or 6 years ago, in the previous administration was trying to get California to clean up, use these dollars and to clean up the mess, the fire, basically fire prevention. And then we ended up having that big, massive fire up north that wiped out a whole town.
Right.
Decimated it.
Yeah. I was vacationing in Oregon not too long ago, a couple years ago, and they have one of those living museums where you go, they have animals, and they had areas outside that they had made a progression of. This is an area of the forest where we did controlled burns. This is an area where we did some controlled burns, but less so. We let the undergrowth grow for a longer period of time. And then here's an area where we did no management whatsoever, and the devastation that you can get from a wildfire. And in Oregon, they don't, and that's also a state run largely by Democrats, right? So they don't have the same things in place that we do here in California. They do controlled burns. They manage their forests really well, and they're not having the issues that we have. That was a big eye-opener to me. It was like, wow, we're doing this to ourselves, essentially, with all of these, protections that we've put in place that really aren't protections. It's not protecting our environment when you start to see that we're taking away all the wildlife habitats when we have those major fires because we didn't manage our land.
And so what you're saying is on that, for that example per se, it's not a Democrat Republican thing, it's a leadership.
Yes.
Got it. All right, let's move on to Proposition 5.
Yeah. Okay, so Proposition 5 is a big one. Are you familiar with Proposition 13?
Nope.
Okay, so Proposition 13 was put in place in the 70s. I think it was 1978, if I remember right. And like myself, not being involved in politics for a long time, neither were my parents. I never heard them speak about politics in our household ever in my life, except for Proposition 13. That was a really big deal, and I think I was like 7 or 8 years old at the time. It was the one time that they went and picketed and wanted Proposition 13, and it did get passed. And what that does is it reduced our property taxes to only 1% of your sale price. So when a house sells, it's 1% of whatever you bought the house for, and it can only be raised a small amount each year. And then if you do a home improvement, it can go up a little bit more, but it still can't immediately jump to whatever your improved value is now. And so it helps quite a lot. There's a lot of senior citizens who own their houses outright at this point, and all they pay is the taxes. If this Proposition 5 were to pass and it had an impact on Prop 13 and it took away that 1%, they probably would be they would be priced out of their home. They would lose their home.
Wow.
So it's a really big deal. The reason that this is such an impact on Prop 13 is one of those measures is that it takes 66.7% of the vote in order to enact the tax.
So they
So that's a lot. That's a big amount.
Right.
It's hard to reach that, and it's hard to reach that for a person, for a purpose. We're supposed to not be taxed as much as we are. They did change it some years ago just for school bonds. It's easier to pass a school bond because it's only 55% that you have to reach, smaller threshold. This Proposition 5 is going to change that for everything. It would only take 55% of the vote to change,
which is just
a tax measure.
Obviously a little over half.
Right.
Yeah.
And you'll see once they made that change for school bonds, there was a huge push for school bonds, and we see it every year. And billions and billions of dollars have been assessed on the
because
citizens.
It's easier to get versus in the past, you needed a lot more support.
Right.
And probably a lot more, foundation and valid reasons why versus just being like, hey, we want to do this.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
So it's a big fat no on 5.
Gotcha. Big fat no.
Yeah.
All right.
And it has an impact on renters too, because if you're a homeowner, your landlord is being assessed a higher rate on their property taxes, they're going to pass that down to you. Mm-hmm. So, it does still have an impact on renters too. So number 6, Proposition 6. This is, I would think, an easy no. There's not a whole lot of opposition or support one way or the other. They're not spending a lot of money on it because it's pretty much a no-brainer. I'm kind of surprised that anybody ever even put it forward. But this is for prison inmates to not be forced to work while they're in prison.
So what's your opinion on this?
I think they're there for a reason, and they should have a burden to work.
Right.
I think it's a positive overall for them. I mean, some of them have privileges to get to work outside, and they look forward to that. They're, low-level criminals. They're not high risk. But it gives them a sense of purpose, like it does for all of us. When we feel good about what we're accomplishing,
right.
I mean, that's going to reduce aggression, and it's going to reduce problems in the prison system. Why would you take that away?
Because a lot of obviously, I'm not like you are into these, really any laws, but you're in prison, you lose your rights, you lose all these different, you screwed up, you're in prison for a reason, you have no rights. You can't vote, you can't internet, you can't, you're doing your time. And so then this, in my opinion, this is now giving them rights within the prison system to say, hey, we don't want to work. We're not going to do mess cleanup. We're not going to serve lunch. You can't tell us, which you're right. No, I agree. I think like this. So this is
a no on Prop 6.
Exactly.
Yep.
Another big fat no.
Yes.
All right. We got a lot of big fat no's.
Yes, we do. So the next one is 32. This would raise California's hourly minimum wage from $16 an hour to $18
I thought it was already
an hour.
up. I thought it was already up to 20.
I thought it was up to 6. I thought 16 was what it was too. I can't remember now, but we've already realized from the last time that this happened that it had a negative impact overall, even for workers that are receiving that hourly wage. We're seeing a lot of companies start going to automation, and so they don't need to hire people. So there's less jobs available. This isn't a positive thing.
Right. Everything, wages go up, everything else goes up with it. So it's like literally we can have $100 an hour, and you're going to have a hamburger that's $75. So it's like
it would be unaffordable.
100%. You're making more money, great, but everything else. So it doesn't. I don't understand where.
Right. Well, you're not really making more money if you can't get a job.
True. Yeah, because everything is all automated and turning into automations.
Right. So it's Howard Jarvis says no on 32, and that's my opinion as well.
Yeah, well, everybody, lots of places say no. Obviously, business owners, restaurant business owners are saying absolutely not because we're already closed. Look at all the businesses and the restaurants that are closing down here recently in the last 30 days.
Yep, leaving the state.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All that tax money leaving our state. Okay, so the next one is Proposition 33. This one is about rental housing. So it's a rent control measure. And Howard Jarvis is also a no on this one. I agree with that opinion. I'm a real estate agent, and so we have a lot of laws that have now made owning a rental property so incredibly arduous that less people are doing that. That's why people are having such a hard time finding rental property, and it's creating quite an issue. So yeah, rents are high. That's unfortunate. There's other things that we can put in place that would bring that down, all of our regulations that are ridiculous. And I'll tell you a story about that in a second. But imposing a rent control measure is not going to help renters, is the bottom line.
Right.
Whether they think it will or it's just not. It's going to have the opposite effect for them because there will be less houses, even less houses to find that are rentable.
So we have another big no.
Right.
All right.
And so when I talk about regulations, during COVID, I had some clients that moved to South Carolina, and they were buying a brand new under construction property there. And they literally, when they sold their house here, they sold all of their belongings. They only took their pets and their clothing and their important financial documents, and that was it. Everything else was left behind and sold. So they started completely over in South Carolina, and they started out driving, and the house was nowhere near done. And I was like, I think the timing of this is not good. You're going to get there, and what are you going to do? You're going to have to stay in a hotel, They're like, oh no, we'll be able to move in. I'm like, really? How is that going to happen? My experience with construction is it's never done on time. And they're like, well, in South Carolina, you can move into a house as long as there's one bathroom that's completed.
Oh,
That's
really?
it. We don't get occupancy here
Right.
in California for that.
100% signed off.
Right.
Yeah.
Down to the numbers on the front of the house have to be correct.
Mm-hmm.
Not just numerically correct, but visible from the street. I've had situations where it's like, nope, the code enforcement person's like, these aren't dark enough, it's not big enough, it's not whatever. It's like, we're not passing you. It's going to be another 2 weeks because the house numbers aren't big enough. That doesn't
Wow.
happen in other states. So
All right.
that was a big eye-opener for me, too. Okay, so next is Proposition 34. This one is a yes vote. So finally, we have a yes vote. This is the nonprofit healthcare organizations that receive federal funds to provide healthcare services have abused the system to spend large amounts of money on political causes. Proposition 34 would end this practice and require that healthcare providers spend most of the money they receive from a federal prescription drug discount program on direct patient care. And so I actually, 34 is not one that I printed out, but so I think that there's a lot of bipartisan support for this one, and it's a yes for 34.
And obviously, we're in a big, with healthcare and costs and needs and stuff like that. So this actually helps push that a little bit better
Right.
and forward too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Money that you're getting from pharmaceuticals should not go to political causes. It should go to patient care.
Right, or apartment buildings or any
Right.
of those kind of things.
Right. So next is Prop 35. Howard Jarvis Tax Association is not taking any position on this one. They're neutral. My opinion is it's a no vote. California currently taxes managed care organizations such as Anthem Blue Cross and others. The MCO tax is set to expire in 2026, and we expect the legislature to make it permanent. Prop 35 would also make it permanent, but would require the revenue from the tax to fund Medi-Cal, the government health insurance program for low-income residents, instead of being used to close gaps in the state budget. About 14 million California residents rely on the Medi-Cal program for their health care needs. So that's Howard Jarvis's synopsis. I went to Cal Voter Guide and printed out this information about Prop 35. And this is going to be how they're going to make up for the spending for all of the illegal immigrants that are going to get free health care. That's what this is for, to fund that. And we look at, okay, who is against this this bond measure. Opponents to it is the League of Women Voters, California Pan-Ethnic Health Group, the Children's Partnership, California Alliance for Retired Americans, and Courage California. Who is for it?
This says none.
Yeah. Media endorsements, that's just media, so, various newspapers. But it would require the state to spend the money from a tax on healthcare plans on Medi-Cal, the public insurance program for low-income Californians and people with disabilities. The revenue would go to primary and specialty care, emergency services, family planning, mental health, and prescription drugs. It would also prevent legislators from using the tax revenue to replace existing state Medi-Cal spending. Over the next 4 years, it is projected to generate upwards of $35 billion. Why is it on the ballot? Lawmakers have dramatically expanded Medi-Cal in the past 10 years to include all low-income residents regardless of citizenship. Benefits have also been restored from Great Recession-era cuts to include dental insurance, hearing aids, and doulas. Today, more than 14 million Californians, roughly a third of the state population, use Medi-Cal. Over the same time period, payments to doctors and other Medi-Cal providers have increased only incrementally, if at all, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. California's reimbursement rate falls in the bottom third nationally. As a result, many providers won't treat Medi-Cal patients. So we've already seen doctors leave the state because of Medi-Cal and how little it pays, and them feeling forced to provide that care using this program. This would make that even worse, I think.
So we're saying no.
I'm saying no.
Another no opinion, whether right or wrong.
Yes.
Right? But
I'm not in favor of my hard-earned tax dollars paying for people who aren't here legally.
100%.
And by the way, I would say we need to make an easier, not such an arduous pathway for people to become citizens. It's not that I don't want them here. It's that I want them to come here legally, and I want them to be able to do it in a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
But they still need to be vetted.
Right.
Yep.
So Proposition 36.
This one is a yes vote.
Okay.
So this one is the Homeless Drug Addiction and Theft Reduction Act. So in 2014, Prop 47 was passed, which was what allowed all of the shoplifting to ensue.
$900, no
Yes.
problem.
So this reverses that.
Okay.
And this is a big fat yes. This has bipartisan support. Our DA, Dan Dow, has spoken up quite a lot about it and is in favor of it and has really pushed it, and I trust him a lot. But just reading through it, it's a no-brainer.
Again, a lot of these things are just in a common sense.
Yes.
It's like this is a common sense proposition.
Right.
I mean, I would love to talk to somebody that's against this.
Well, yeah.
And find out why.
Who is against it?
No, we don't want to do that.
Governor Newsom is against it.
Oh, well, I don't want to talk to him.
The Democratic Party is against it. California Democratic Party. Alliance for Safety and Justice, the ACLU. A lot of these organizations used to be ones that were highly respected, and over the years they've changed and their views have changed, and they're not doing the work that they used to do, which is sad.
Oh gosh, these things are so crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's the time that we live in.
Yeah.
So that's a big yes.
Yes.
On Proposition 36, and I am a big yes as well. So now we're down to measure 20D24.
Right. So that's specific to our Templeton Unified School District.
Okay.
It's a bond measure.
Yep.
And so some of the things I hear across the board from people with school bonds is they never spend it on what they say they're going to spend it on. They say they're not going to use it for teacher salaries, yet they do. Can't they just find somewhere else to pay for these things in the budget? Why does it need to be another bond? So what I can say about Templeton, now that I've been on the board for 2 years, it's the thing that I'm the most proud of, I think, is that our school district does manage the budget very well. They do an excellent job. They are all fiscally conservative. And there's a lot of thought that goes into the budget and where we're spending the money and the most bang for our buck, and with keeping students and teachers in mind. Where is this going to go the furthest? And we have a budget for maintaining our buildings, and we use it appropriately, but we're falling short of being able to do that. There's certain things that the state has said, we're going to pay this amount to you for special ed services, and they don't. And so then we end up having to spend that money for those things. Our buildings are, particularly Vineyard Elementary School, I did a walk around. It definitely is in need of some help. The issue that I have with school bonds in the state of California is that they require, the state requires a lot of reporting, and the oversight is fine. We have an oversight committee, and that's a good thing. But the state requires such an arduous and complicated process to report to them on a regular basis that it's impossible for most districts, certainly a tiny district like us. Our staffing can't handle that. So then you've got to hire a company to do it, which also costs money. So that company gets some of the bond money. And it's this network of, I don't like that part of it.
So yeah, so it's the bonds, the money dollars aren't going to what it's intended for, and then gets allocated outside even the area and the needs.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And our school district, with this last bond that we had, they spent it very wisely. They did a lot of good things in the district. They did it exactly what they said they were going to do with it. They did definitely not use it for teacher salaries, which they're not allowed to do. We do get state matching funds, which is nice. But, you know, this is, and I guess, you know, people are going to want to know, what is the actual amount my tax property is going to increase. So it's $60 per 100,000 of your assessed value, which is different than your market value. So you look on your tax bill that you get, and you see your assessed value, which is usually significantly lower because of Prop 13. That's the beauty of it. And so, for instance, on my house, my assessed value is only like $650,000. So you do 60 times 6, that's like $360, I think, and that's your annual amount that you're going to be increased in your taxes, which comes out to, I think, like $30 a month. And for some people, that's a lot. And we do already, if you look at your tax bill right now, we have a bond that we're still paying on. We have the bill for the bond for Cuesta. We have a tax that we're paying for our fire department. So there's quite a lot of, there's 4 different, on my tax bill, there's 4 different assessments on there that we're paying for, besides the 1%.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, not cool. Eric chimes in.
Yeah.
Not cool. But,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I was just saying in general, kind of going over this, I mean, it's really, to better understand it. And I hope, you know, people like myself that are, you know, really unsure of what these purposes are, you know, get something out of this. Because, like I said, I mean, I learned a lot. And, you know, which now makes me think about, I want to have you on again, you know, so that way, because we're already in an hour.
Wow.
I know, right? I was going, oh my gosh, it's an hour. It's because it just goes so fast. It's so informative, which I really like, and that's the purpose of this and what I wanted to do.
Great.
So, so I really appreciate you coming on here and you know, volunteering your time to come and talk about this, because it's really needed. Which, you know, there's so many other stuff that we could go on for another couple hours that we don't have the time for, but it's like, how come there's not these forums? Why does it have to come down to this, to where it's like, what does this really mean? You know, It's like, and you have to read the, you know, the book of, you know, what things are for. You know, this proposition is you know, you say yes on this, and then it gives you the open door and opens up the unlocks for this, you know, measure or something like that. And I just think government, there's so something's wrong in there. You know, there's everything in there is like, why? You know, what's the purpose? How come you want me to say yes? And some people just say, you know, I'm not even gonna, because I don't understand it. I don't want to say yes or no, or a for or against, because I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna say something wrong, and then somebody's gonna win by one vote, and that's my vote. And I didn't know anything about it.
The one thing I would say I learned once I started paying much more attention to politics that was a new fact to me was that the difference between a primary election and general, and what the meaning of that is for our local issues. So for instance, in the county supervisor race, we just recently had Heather Moreno running against Ellen Beirut. Was that who was running against her, I think? They ran in the primary. In a local race only, if one of the candidates gets 50% plus one of the vote, that's it, they're in. They don't go on to the general, the election's over. The only time it goes forward into the general on a local race like that is if nobody reached that threshold. So a lot of people don't even bother voting in the primary because they're like, who cares? It'll be on the ballot in the general. Well, you could save yourself a lot of time and more money being spent on elections if you voted, especially in those local races.
Well, I think that's the important message, and the takeaway here is to get out and vote.
Yes.
Which everybody's saying it. Your voice does matter, whatever, right or wrong, but your voice matters and it's part of the equation.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, Jennifer, thanks for coming on. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to having you on again, because I see a big value in having you on and explaining things and talking about our local schools and our measures and everything. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, there you have it, guys. Hey, make sure you guys get out and vote. Everybody's got the ballots in probably your possession by now. And make sure that you guys get out and vote, guys. I mean, that's probably the most important thing is to get your voice heard by voting. But as always, guys, we can't do this without you and our sponsors. I'd like to thank Esquire Wine, Wine Travelers Hideaway, Visit Atascadero, 805 Custom, Ron Mullins with Remax, North County Junk Removal, The Trailer Barn, Story Termite Pest Control, Borho Auto Center, Kennedy Club Fitness, Airflow Filter Services, Suprema Meat Market, and MGP Coatings. Thanks again, guys. We'll see you at the polls.
Hi, this is Dave Story, small game hunter with Story Termite and Pest. We're a full-service termite and pest control company. From rodents to termites, we can take care of all your pest control needs. Call today, we can tailor a pest control program that will meet your needs and budget. Contact us at 805-460-0650 or at storytermite.com. Remember, we don't have customers, we have friends.
Hi, it's Alex with Suprema Meat Market. We are a Mexican meat market with a taqueria. Come enjoy our high-quality cuts and meats. We offer choice and prime Harris Ranch beef, as well as chicken, seafood, and pork items. In the taqueria, all of our tacos come with handmade tortillas. We also offer specialty items like chilaquiles and chile rellenos. Come enjoy Taco Tuesday with Suprema. We offer our tacos at $1.99 each. Suprema Meat Market is located at 8950 Montecito Avenue in Atascadero.
Are you tired of looking at that worn-out concrete garage floor, patio, or porch? Look no further than MGP Coatings, where customer service reigns supreme. Our team goes above and beyond to ensure your satisfaction every step of the way. Before we even start coating, we meticulously repair your concrete, ensuring a flawless finish that lasts. And here's the best part. Our Pentec coatings are 4 times stronger than epoxy, so they won't chip or peel, making maintenance a breeze. Plus, they come with a limited lifetime warranty. Call us today at 805-952-5301 or check out our Facebook and Instagram and experience the MGP coating difference. Don't wait. Transform your garage, patio, porch, or driveway and become a part of the MGP coating family.
What's up, North County? This is Teresa Branch with Airflow Filter Service. We are a family-owned business right here in the North County. We have air filters, oils and lubricants, and hydraulic hoses. We provide services that include air filter cleaning, DPF cleaning, and waste oil collection. Come check us out at 1140 Ramada Drive, and we can help you with all your automotive and industrial vehicle needs.
Hi, this is Omid
and Deanna
at North County Junk Removal. We are a business known for helping our neighbors and our community.
Let us help you save money and get rid of any unwanted items.
And rest assured that our professional team adheres to global standards of safety and recycling. We are fully licensed and insured for your peace of mind.
We are locally owned and operated, and we look forward to helping you with all your junk removal needs.
Please call us at 805-769-6966.
Atascadero isn't your standard getaway. We're unique, just like you. We're growing, transforming, and figuring it out as we go. We're a town filled with innovators, artists, makers, and game changers. We're a little bit country, a little bit funky, and always authentic. We're here for your good times, your slow times, and your changing times. We're all in Atascadero. Come see for yourself. Learn more at visitatascadero.com.
Hi, welcome to Kennedy Club Fitness, where we have something for everyone. We have weights, cardio, group exercise classes, racquetball, basketball, swimming, and pickleball coming soon. Here at Kennedy, we're committed to health, wellness, and community. Stop by any of our 4 locations: Paso Robles, Atascadero, San Luis Obispo, and Arroyo Grande, or check out our website at kennedyclubs.com.
Hi, my name is Ron Mullins with RE/MAX Parkside in Paso Robles, California. I have proudly represented buyers and sellers in northern San Luis Obispo County since 1990. Give me a call to discuss how my experience can help you achieve your real estate goals. I can be reached at 805-235-2308. I look forward to the opportunity to earn your business.